Parts of Washington state, Oregon, and Idaho spent another day baking in sweltering temperatures. Rolling blackouts continue in the city of Spokane, Washington, which hit a record 109 degrees yesterday. President Biden lamented the brutal heat during a virtual meeting with the governors of western states.
The extreme heat we're seeing in the West is not only a risk amplifier for wildfires, it's a threat in and of itself. People are hurting. It's more dangerous for kids to play outside. Roads are buckling under the heat. I need not tell all of you.
Meantime, a dangerous heat wave in Canada is slowly starting to ease. It scorched the Pacific Coast province of British Columbia, with temperatures 30 to 40 degrees Fahrenheit hotter than normal. One city recorded a reading of 122. The plains of Alberta and Manitoba provinces have also been blasted. At least 233 people died in British Columbia between Friday and Monday alone. That is about 100 more than the normal four-day average. Joining me now to discuss this is David Phillips. He's senior climatologist at Environment Canada. It's the Canadian government department responsible for environmental policy. Mr. Phillips, thank you so much for joining us. Tell us, what is Canada dealing with right now?
Well, Judy, it's unprecedented. Historically, we've never seen this before. The last warm temperature that we've always talked about in Canada was back in Yellowgrass, Saskatchewan, back 84 years ago. And we have seen this week just 400 records have been broken in the West. And that's just the warm temperatures during the day. And these are just not a tenth of a degree warmer than the previous record. We are seeing just it's like a different world for us here. We are the second coldest country in the world and the snowiest. And we are dealing with something that we're not used to. And it's so extreme, it's long lasting. And as you mentioned, it's beginning to have health effects, environmental effects, and certainly economic effects.
And what do you know about the science that's behind this heat wave? What is causing this? And of course, everybody wants to understand, is it connected to climate change?
Well, you know, Judy, it is really a dome. It's like putting a dome stadium over an area from the Arctic Circle down to California. And what happens in that dome is the air gets trapped. It can't leave. It gets progressively warmer. It squeezes down and it just gets hotter and hotter. And no weather can get in the way. And of course, we often say, well, every time we see an extreme event, we say, well, is this climate change? And I think we've hidden enough behind the fact that we say, well, climate change doesn't create weather. It doesn't create heat waves and forest fires and hurricanes. But Judy, what it does is it contributes to it. There are many factors that create extreme weather and the physical factors, but now we're realizing that there's human factors. And this heat wave would not been as nearly as brutal and deadly if it hadn't been for what's coming out of our tailpipes and smokestacks.
Who is most affected?
Judy, it's the elderly, of course. It's infants who don't have the sweat glands. It's outdoor workers. It's the homeless. It is people with health-related illnesses, and that's why we're seeing so many deaths, but a lot more emergency entrances. And we still have lockdown situations in Canada, and so breathing through a mask on these kind of temperatures is just just brutal. And people don't go outside. People are moving from their homes to hotels because they don't have air conditioning. I mean, there's only less than half the people in Western Canada have air conditioning. So it's something that we've never dealt with before, and we're trying to cope with it. And the only good news is that maybe in 5 or 6 days it will be history, but boy, it will take its toll before we get there.
It sounds as if you're saying the government and the people of Canada were just not prepared for this.
Well, it was well forecasted, Judy, but it's just so fundamentally different. It's like rewriting the climate of Canada to have to deal with this. And so you don't want to over-design and under-design. You sort of want to match the existing conditions. But this is really a dress rehearsal, almost the opening act of what we're going to see more of. I hope we learn from it to say, hey, this occurred once, it could occur again, and it won't be 83 years before we break another record. So I think we need to prepare for it.
You do expect this kind of climate, this kind of weather to return in the future?
Absolutely, Judy. You know, weather repeats itself. And so if you get this, if it's physically possible to get this, it could only ramp up that much more and more frequently. So I think this is a kind of a lesson from nature. It's giving us a heads up, and hopefully we're smart enough to pay attention to it.
David Phillips, environmentalist with the Canadian government, thank you very much.
You're welcome, Judy.
Back in the U.S., the medical examiner of Multnomah County reports that 45 deaths were due to extreme heat since Friday.